Good day students, welcome to zoology class. Hope all of you are fine. Today I will be discussing with you a second topic of the unit biology and human welfare. The first topic was on immunity and now this is the second topic, and the second topic is human health and diseases. So I have to discuss certain diseases in this presentation. So this is a long topic, so I have decided to divide this presentation on diseases into 2 or 3 parts. So in this first presentation we will be discussing about. So first of all, I will tell you that what is health. So basically, health, it is a condition of being sound in body, mind and spirit. Especially, it's the freedom from physical disease or any pain. So when we are healthy, it means we are having a sound body, mind and spirit, and we are free from any physical sickness. And mind influenced by neural system, endocrine system, immune system, it also affects the health. It means that besides the physical fitness, if our endocrine system, neural system and immune system is healthy, then we are in a state of good health. Health in generally means free from illness or disease, injury or pain, or lack of physical fitness. So, health can be defined as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being. So, healthy people, they are efficient at work, which increases productivity and brings economic prosperity. And health increases longevity of people and reduces infant and maternal mortality. It means the person who is healthy, he or she is free from any disease and he is sound in body, mind and spirit. And when a person is healthy, he also behaves properly in a society. And healthy people, they are more efficient at their work and they can give more productivity in their work, and then they can be a good human being. And so health also increases the length of the life of the people, and it also reduces infant and maternal mortality. So this is health. So there I can say that there are some certain characteristics of the good health. If a person is free from sickness and disease, number 2, if he is free from unnecessary anxiety, free from social and psychological tension, and he is full of self-confidence, and the person, if he feels joy in living and ability to work efficiently, then we can say then the person is having a good health. So a healthy person is free from any disease, he is free from any anxiety or stress, and the person who is healthy should be free from any social and psychological tension. The person should be full of self-confidence, and the person enjoys living and work. So these are certain characteristics of good health. So, but there are many factors which affect this good health. And what are these factors which affect the health? First is genetic disorder, deficiencies a child is born with, and deficiencies or defects child inherits. And number 2, certain infections. And number 3 is the lifestyle, that is food and water, rest and exercise and habits. So these are the 3 points which affect the health. If a certain person is born with genetic disorder, suppose there is a deficiency in the body right from the birth, or the child inherits certain deficiencies or genetic disorders right from the birth, then it causes diseases. Second one is, and after the birth, if the person gets infection of certain pathogens, then also the person gets diseases. And if the person has a bad lifestyle, that is, the person does not take food and water properly, or without contamination, or the person cannot take proper rest and exercise, and if the person has not healthy habits, then these three types of factors, it contribute to their poor health. So these factors have to be kept in mind if the person wants to stay healthy. So when our health is disturbed, we start a disease. Now, what is disease? Any condition which interferes with the normal functioning of the body and impairs the health, it is called as the disease. So any time when our body functions are not doing properly, and the normal functioning of the body is not going on, then we say that the person is suffering from certain disease. But we can divide these diseases in certain types. So there are two main types of diseases. First is congenital disease, that is inborn disease or genetically inherited, and the second one is acquired disease, that is after birth and non-inheritable. So there are two main types of diseases. Number one is congenital disease. What is a congenital disease? It is a disease which is inborn, which is present at the time of the birth, or it is genetically inherited from the previous generation, and this type of disease is known as the congenital disease. And second type of disease is acquired disease, which the person gets after birth in the environment. And these acquired diseases, they are not inherited in the next generation. So these are the two types of diseases. So first is congenital disease. So these diseases which are present at the time of the birth, they can be due to gene mutation. And example is hemophilia and color blindness. And these diseases can also be due to chromosomal mutation. For example, Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, etc. So the examples of congenital diseases are hemophilia, color blindness, then Down syndrome and Klinefelter syndrome. These are certain congenital diseases. These hemophilia and color blindness, these are the diseases which are caused due to changes in the genes. And these Down syndrome and Klinefelter like diseases, these diseases are caused due to the chromosomal mutation or changes in the number or absence or presence of extra chromosome that contributes to diseases due to chromosomal mutation, for example Down syndrome and Klinefelter syndrome. So these are the congenital diseases. And second type is the acquired diseases. These acquired diseases, they are further divided into two types. First is communicable or infectious disease, and second is non-communicable or non-infectious disease. So these communicable or infectious disease, they are communicated from one person to other person through air, water, food, physical contact, or certain vectors. For example, they can be bacteria, virus, protozoans, helminths, fungus, etc. And they communicate from one person to other person. But non-communicable or non-infectious diseases, they are not due to the communication from one infected person to other healthy person, but these can be due to some deficiency of certain things in the body. For example, diabetes, then arthritis, and then cancer, and certain allergic diseases, for example asthma. So these are the examples of the non-communicable diseases which a person can be infected in the lifespan. So these are the certain types of diseases. So after that lady, this disease was known as the typhoid fever. So these are certain symptoms of typhoid fever. and that is a causative agent, that is Salmonella typhi, and it is transmitted through contaminated food and water, and the confirmation of typhoid fever is done by the Vidal test. So how to prevent typhoid fever? So the best way to prevent typhoid, it is through proper sanitation and disposal of fecal matter. So any waste from the infected person, it should be disposed of properly, and there should be proper hygiene and sanitation to prevent the typhoid fever, and moreover the food and water should not be contaminated. And for this typhoid, vaccine is also given to the persons, and to prevent them from the typhoid, and the vaccine is known as the TAB vaccine. It is used to prevent typhoid, and it gives immunity for 3 years. And what do you mean by TAB vaccine? TAB vaccine, it contains killed typhoid bacteria, and it contains typhoid vaccine, then para-typhoid A and para-typhoid B. So this is known as TAB vaccine, which is given to prevent typhoid for 3 years. So this vaccine gives immunity for 3 years. So how to control typhoid fever? So once the person is infected with Salmonella typhi, how to control typhoid? And then there are certain drugs, and because this is a bacteria, there are certain antibiotic drugs like chloromycetin, which is very effective in curing this typhoid fever by killing the or removing the Salmonella typhi. So these are certain preventions and control of typhoid fever. So this is a picture which shows different things about the typhoid. This is a Salmonella typhi. This is the microscopic structure of Salmonella typhi, which is a causative agent of the typhoid, and this is shown that the typhoid, it is transmitted through contaminated food and water. Then what are the symptoms? There is loss of appetite, there is abdominal pain, and sometimes there is diarrhea, and sometimes there is nausea. Person feels like vomiting. So these are certain symptoms which are shown in the picture about the typhoid fever. So next disease which we are going to study, that is the common cold. So what is the causative agent of common cold? The causative agent of the common cold is rhinovirus. This is a virus. So what is epidemiology? So how it is transmitted? It is transmitted by the inhalation of droplets of cough or sneeze of an infected person, and transmission can be through contaminated objects. It means that the rhinovirus, it is the causative agent of the common cold, and this is transmitted from the infected person to the healthy person. It is a communicable disease. It is transmitted through the droplets of cough and sneeze of the infected person, and it can be transmitted through the objects which a infected person must have touched. For example, pen, pencil, desk, or anything. So it can be transmitted through contaminated or infected objects. So what are the symptoms of common cold? These are very well known to you because this is a common disease that it infects the nose and respiratory passage but not the lungs. And the person suffering from common cold, it shows symptoms like nasal congestion and discharge. There is a sore throat, there is hoarseness, and then there is cough, headache, tiredness, and sometimes fever may occur in common cold. So these symptoms, they usually last for 3 to 7 days, and the virus responsible for the common cold, it can live in the environment outside the body for many hours. So these are the certain symptoms which are shown in the picture, that the person feels fever, body aches, then he feels chills, that is cold, then tiredness, and some other symptoms may occur in case of the common cold. And basically there is no cure for common cold. So how to prevent the common cold? The only prevention of the common cold, it is to stay away from the congested places and wash hands before eating or using the contaminated object. So how to prevent common cold? We can prevent common cold by staying away from the congested places, because in congested places there is a possibility of some infected persons, and then we should always wash hands before eating or using if a contaminated object. If we touch certain object, and after that we should wash our hand, and so then we can prevent common cold. And there is no effective control of common cold. It goes on its own after 3 to 7 days. So there is no control, there is no certain medicine for cold, but we can take medicine for fever, or we can take cold medicine for cough or cold, but there is no particular medicine for common cold. So next disease is malaria. So malaria is also a common disease, and what is the causative agent of malaria? The causative agent of malaria is Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malaria, Plasmodium falciparum, and so this is a protozoan. Plasmodium is a protozoan which causes malaria, and the Plasmodium is a genus, and there are different species of Plasmodium which causes malaria. For example, vivax and falciparum, it is very important and very common, and Plasmodium falciparum, it is very dangerous, it is malignant, and it can prove fatal. So how this Plasmodium vivax or any other species of Plasmodium, it enters the body? It enters through the bite of female Anopheles mosquito. So mosquito is the vector which is responsible for transmitting Plasmodium from mosquito to human beings. And which type of mosquito is responsible? Female Anopheles mosquito is responsible for transmitting the Plasmodium from mosquito to human beings. And when female Anopheles mosquito transmits Plasmodium to human beings, it reaches the liver and RBCs. So we can say when a person is suffering from malaria, which organs are affected? It is liver and RBCs. And what are the symptoms of malaria? High fever and chill, and fever occurs on every alternate day, and the person may feel vomiting. Actually, in case of malaria, there are certain stages of the fever, and each malarial attack, it lasts for about 6 to 10 hours, and patient goes through 3 different stages. First stage is cold stage, second stage is hot stage, and third stage is sweating stage. So in cold stage, malaria begins with very cold, and the person shivers, the person feels chills, and there is gradual rise in temperature. And the next stage is hot stage, and in this stage temperature rises, and it can rise up to 104 degree centigrade, and then 104 degree Fahrenheit, and it is accompanied by headache and body aches. So third stage is sweating stage, and the fever subside after certain time, and then it comes to normal, and it is followed by sweating. So these are the 3 different stages of the malarial fever. So this is the mosquito, that is Anopheles, female Anopheles mosquito, which is responsible for malaria, and these are the certain symptoms which causes malaria. So this is the diagram which shows different symptoms of malaria, that a person feels chills, and then after the fever there is sweating, there is dry cough also, there is, in severe cases, there is enlargement of liver and spleen, and sometimes the person feels nausea and vomiting, there is headache, and then fatigue and back pain. So these are some of the symptoms which a person feels during malaria. And if the malaria is not treated, the different stages of the fever, that is the cold stage, hot stage, and sweating stage, they are repeated after every alternate day. And when the person is cured from the malaria, then person feels very much weak and anemic, and it takes some time for the person who has suffered from malaria to come to normal health. So there is spleen and liver enlargement in the malaria. So Plasmodium, which is responsible for the malarial fever, it has a life cycle. Half of the life cycle it goes in the human beings, and half life cycle it goes in female Anopheles mosquito. So we can say in the life cycle of Plasmodium, which is the causative agent of malaria, it requires two hosts. One is human being and other is the female Anopheles mosquito. And life cycle of Plasmodium, it starts with the injecting sporozoites through the bite of the infected female Anopheles mosquito, and then the parasite initially multiplies within the liver cells, and then it attacks the red blood cells, resulting in their rupture. And then there is a release of toxic substance known as hemozoin from the ruptured RBC, and this is responsible for the chill and the high fever. And from the infected human beings, the parasite enters the body of the Anopheles mosquito during biting and sucking blood, and further development of this Plasmodium, it takes place in the body of the Anopheles mosquito. So this is a diagram showing the life cycle of Plasmodium, which is responsible for the malaria. Suppose this portion, this is for the host, human beings as a host, and this portion shows mosquito as the host. Suppose we start from this point, that when a mosquito bites a human being, it gives Plasmodium to the body of the human beings, and at that time the Plasmodium is in the stage of the sporozoites, that the sporozoites are injected into the body of the human being by the bite of the female Anopheles mosquito. And from here through blood, the Plasmodium, that is the sporozoite stage, it enters the liver. It infects the liver cells, and here in the liver cells, these are the liver cells, and in liver cells these sporozoites, they multiply asexually and they produce a large number of sporozoites, and afterwards liver cells, they rupture, and then these sporozoites, they enter the blood, and in the blood also they enter the RBCs, and in RBCs also these sporozoites, they multiply asexually and produce more number of the sporozoites. And then when there are very large number of sporozoites, then the RBCs rupture, and these sporozoites, they form the sexual stage. They form the gametocytes, that is the female gametocyte and male gametocytes are formed. Now it has to reproduce sexually, and when again the mosquito bites a person, these male and female gametocytes, they enter the body of the mosquito, and here from here in the body of the mosquito, sexual reproduction takes place, that is fertilization takes place, and then again sporozoites are formed, and these sporozoites, they go into the upper portion of the mosquito and they enter the salivary gland of the mosquito, and then again when the mosquito bites the human beings, these sporozoites, they enter the body of the human being, and in this way life cycle goes on. So in the life cycle of Plasmodium, it has two hosts, one is human being and other is the female Anopheles mosquito. So then there is a next point is prevention of malaria. How to prevent malaria? The only way to prevent malaria is to prevent the mosquito from biting and by destroying their breeding places as under. Number one, a fine net should be used on doors and windows to prevent the entry of the mosquito. Then insect repellent creams like odomas can be used in keeping mosquitoes away. Then sleeping under the fine mesh mosquito nets also helps to prevent mosquito bite. We can spray insecticides like DDT to keep away the mosquitoes or to kill the mosquitoes. Mosquito larvae can be destroyed by spraying kerosene oil in open drains, stagnant water, ponds and water of the cooler fan. And water should not be allowed to collect around the house. And another effective way to kill mosquito larvae is to introduce fish like gambusia or trouts which feed on the mosquito larvae in large water bodies. That it is said that prevention is better than cure. So in case of malaria also we have to prevent it, and there are certain ways by which we can prevent malaria. So how to prevent? The main purpose in prevention of malaria is to keep away the mosquitoes, and we can keep away the mosquitoes by using either fine nets on the doors and windows, or there are certain insect repellent creams like odomos. Then we can sleep under the fine mesh mosquito nets to prevent the mosquito bite, or by spraying insecticides like DDT etc. mosquitoes can be killed, or we should spray kerosene oil in open drains or stagnant water in ponds and water of the cooler fan to kill the larvae of the bacteria. And water should not be allowed to collect around our houses. And another effective way to kill the mosquito larvae is to introduce the fish like gambusia and trouts which eat mosquito larvae, and so we can be prevented from the bite of the mosquito, and then plasmodium will not attack us. So these are the points of prevention of malaria. So malaria can be cured, and if a person is infected with plasmodium or is suffering from malaria, then it can be controlled by taking the drug quinine in prescribed doses. And now malaria is also treated by other medicines like chloroquine and sulfadoxine etc. And the research is on to develop a vaccine for malaria. First of all, malaria used to be treated with the drug known as quinine, and quinine is extracted from the bark of the cinchona tree. And now because this plasmodium has become resistant with the quinine, so there are certain other medicines like chloroquine or sulfadoxine. They are used to treat malaria, and scientists are doing research to develop a vaccine for malaria also. So this is about malaria, and these are the certain points to control the malaria. So next disease is amoebiasis. So next disease is amoebiasis. So amoebiasis is also known as amoebic dysentery, and the causative agent of amoebiasis it is also a protozoan, and it is Entamoeba histolytica. And how this Entamoeba histolytica enters the body of human beings to cause amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery? It is through the transmission of parasite from feces of infected person to food or food products through house flies, and then drinking water contaminated by the fecal matter are the main sources of infection. So in case of amoebiasis, or you can say amoebic dysentery, it is caused by Entamoeba histolytica, which is a protozoan, and it is transmitted from the feces of infected person to food or water, and because of the infected food and water through house flies, this Entamoeba histolytica enters the body of the human beings. And when it enters the body of the human beings, the target organ is the large intestine. It reaches the large intestine, and then it starts harming the body. And when a person is suffering from amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery, what are the symptoms? Symptoms include constipation, abdominal pain and cramps, and stools with excess mucus and blood clots. So in case of amoebiasis, person feels constipation, there is a pain in abdomen, there is a cramp in abdomen, and then stools are passed with mucus and blood clots. So these are the symptoms of the amoebiasis. So this is shown that how intestine is infected with Entamoeba histolytica. So these are the roots how this amoebiasis is caused. That then first of all the food and water is contaminated through the fecal matter, and then it enters the body through food and water, contaminated food and water, and then it reaches the intestine, and here in the intestine the infection is caused, and parasite may live here inactive for certain time, and it may not produce any symptoms, but sometimes it reproduces and then it causes symptoms. And so these are certain symptoms of the amoebic dysentery. Next is ascariasis. So ascariasis is also a disease which is caused by helminths, and the causative agent is Ascaris lumbricoides. This is a roundworm and it belongs to phylum helminths. So how it reaches the body of the human being? It is also through the consumption of contaminated water, vegetables, fruits, etc. And contamination takes place through feces of infected person which have the eggs of the parasite. So ascariasis or the Ascariasis lumbricoides, which is the causative agent of ascariasis, it is also transmitted from the feces of infected person which contains the eggs of the parasite, and it is transmitted through the consumption of contaminated water and food. So where it reaches, this Ascaris lumbricoides, it reaches the intestine, and where it harms the body. So in ascariasis, what are the symptoms? There is internal bleeding of intestine, there is muscular pain, there is fever, and the person is anemic, and then in certain cases when the infection is very high, there is blockage of the intestinal passage. So these are the symptoms in ascariasis, that there is internal bleeding of intestine, person feels muscular pain, in certain cases the person feels fever, suffers from fever, and the person is anemic, and the intestine is also blocked. So how to prevent ascariasis? We can prevent ascariasis also through personal cleanliness, eating properly cooked food, washing all eatables before consuming, and proper disposal of human feces. Because if the human feces are disposed of properly, then there is no means of food and water contamination, and if we do not take contaminated food and water, we cannot get the infection of ascariasis. And how it is cured? Once we get the infection of ascariasis, number of medicines like 10-gram dose of piperazine or phosphate with calcium cinoside and nemocide, they are very effective. These are certain medicines which are given to the patient suffering from ascariasis to cure them, and this is a treatment for the ascariasis. So this picture shows that this disease ascariasis, it is transmitted through contaminated food and water, and this is the picture showing ascariasis in the intestine. So this is a male ascariasis, and this is a female ascaris. So you must have seen this male and female ascaris in 11th class in your school lab, and the person feels pain in the stomach, cramp in the stomach when the person is suffering from ascariasis, and when there is a high infection of ascariasis, this intestine, it is shown that it is blocked. So these are certain symptoms and mode of transmission of the ascariasis. So next disease is elephantiasis or filariasis. So the causative agent of this disease, that is elephantiasis or filariasis, it is also a helminth, and that helminth is Wucheria bancrofti or Wucheria malai. Wucheria bancrofti is the main mode of infection in case of the filariasis, which is filarial worm, and it is known, the disease is known as elephantiasis or the filariasis. And how it is transmitted? It is transmitted through the bite of female mosquito culex. In case of malaria, that was female Anopheles mosquito, and in case of elephantiasis, it is female culex mosquito, which is a vector for causing elephantiasis. And where it targets, this disease targets the lymphatic vessels of lower limbs, genital organs, etc. So in this elephantiasis, lymphatic vessels are affected. And what are the symptoms? There is chronic inflammation of organs after many years, and lymphatic vessels which result in appearance of elephant-like legs, so it is known as the elephantiasis. Why this disease is known as elephantiasis? It is caused by filarial worm, and it is also known as filariasis. But why it is elephantiasis? Because when the legs of the patient, they appear like the elephant, they are swollen and there is inflammation and they appear like elephant, so it is also known as elephantiasis. And there is deformation of genital organs also in this disease. So this is the mosquito, that is the female culex mosquito, which causes the transmission of this Wucheria bancrofti, and this is the microscopic structure of the Wucheria bancrofti. And in this case of elephantiasis or filariasis, what is cure and prevention? In this case, drugs like methyl carbamazine, it destroys the microfilariae to restrict the further infection, and like malaria, eradication of culex species of mosquito is very important. In this case also, as it is caused by the bite of the female culex mosquito, so eradication of mosquito is the main prevention of this disease. And moreover, the drugs like methyl carbamazine, it also eradicates it also destroys the microfilariae to restrict the further infection of the this elephantiasis or the infection of the Wucheria bancrofti. So this is the life cycle of Wucheria bancrofti. It also requires two hosts. One is human being and other is the mosquito. And so this is a person showing inflammation in the leg, lower limb. So this is like the elephant leg. So this disease is known as the elephantiasis. And in this also, so you see that these are the microfilariae which cause the disease, and from human being it reaches the mosquito, and from mosquito, by the bite of the mosquito, it reaches the human beings again. So the next disease is ringworm, and the ringworm, in case of ringworm, the causative agent is fungi. And what type of fungi causes ringworm? They are the genus Microsporum, Trichophyton and Epidermophyton. These all three are their fungi, and so ringworm is caused by the fungal infection. And how it is transmitted, and what is the epidemiology? That it is acquired from the soil. So and it is acquired from the soil also, and by using the towel, cloths and even comb of infected individuals, we can get this fungal infection. And heat and moisture, it enhances the growth of the this fungal infection. So these are the sources of transmission of the fungal infection, which is transmitted through the genus Microsporum, Trichophyton and Epidermophyton. So what are the target organs in case of the ringworm? They are the skin, nails and folds of the skin in groin and toes. So fungal infection basically occurs where there is heat and moisture, there is humid atmosphere. So it is targeted on the organs like skin, nails and the folds of the skin. And what are the symptoms of ringworm? There is the appearance of dry, scaly lesions in skin, nails, and scalp. Then these lesions, they are accompanied by intense itching and infection patches. This spreads outwards, heals in the center, and they gives a ring-like appearance. So this disease is known as the ringworm. So, but the fungal species that is Microsporum, Trichophyton, and Epidermophyton. These are certain fungal species which causes the disease called ringworm, and the infection of these species, these fungal infection is acquired from the soil or by using towels and clothes or infected things of the infected individual, or through heat and moisture. This fungal infection can be got, and the targeted organs are basically the folds of skin, and then nails, and the journal toes. So, and the infection spreads outwards, and then it heals in the center, and it forms a ring-like structure. So this disease is known as the ringworm. Then how to cure and prevent this ringworm disease? Fungicide cream or powder is applied to the affected area. Heat and moisture helps the fungus to grow in skin folds, so the person should avoid the same and maintain personal hygiene. So as you know that this disease is caused due to the heat and moisture, so person should avoid heat and moisture, and the person should maintain personal hygiene, and by applying fungicide creams or powder, this disease can be cured or prevented. So this is a picture which shows the fungal infection. So fungal infection, it is also caused by Microsporum species. So this is the microscopic structure of the microsporum, and so this is a picture of the toes, and here it is fungal infection, and it spreads like that in the center it heals, and on the outside outwards there is an infection, so it gives the appearance of a ring-like structure. So this disease is known as the ringworm. So these are certain diseases which we have discussed today. So there should be some general prevention and control to prevent ourselves from the diseases. For example, infectious diseases can be prevented through maintenance of personal and public hygiene. And so for studying the general prevention and control of diseases, we can divide the diseases in three groups. First is food and waterborne diseases, second is airborne diseases, and third is vector-borne diseases. First of all, food and waterborne diseases. In this, proper personal hygiene, including keeping the body clean, consumption of clean drinking water, food, vegetables, fruits, etc. And then next is proper public hygiene, which includes proper disposal or waste or excreta, then periodic cleaning and disinfection of water, reservoirs, then pools, cesspools, tanks, and observing standard practices of hygiene in public and catering. And the diseases which come under this food and waterborne category, they are the typhoid, amoebiasis, and ascariasis. So to prevent food and waterborne diseases, we have to take care of our personal hygiene, we have to keep our body clean, we have to consume pure drinking water, and without any contamination, and uncontaminated food and vegetables should be taken. And in public also, there should be a proper disposal of waste and excreta, and there should be periodic disinfection of water and pools, and we have to observe standard practices of hygiene in public to avoid these waterborne diseases. So next comes the airborne diseases, and to prevent ourselves from airborne diseases, we should avoid close contact with infected person, or their belongings should be avoided. And personal hygiene is also important in this case to prevent the diseases. And diseases which come under the category of airborne disease, they are pneumonia and common cold. So in case of airborne diseases, we should avoid the close contact with the infected persons and their belongings to keep away from this infection. And personal hygiene is always important to prevent from the diseases. Then third category of the diseases is the vector-borne diseases. These are those diseases which are caused by certain bacteria, by mosquitoes or anything else. So controlling and eliminating the vector and their breeding places, then avoiding stagnation of water in and around residential areas, regular cleaning of household coolers, use of mosquito nets, and then introducing fish like gambusia in ponds which feed on mosquito larvae, then spraying of insecticides, and then doors and windows, there should be wire mesh on the doors and windows to prevent the entry of mosquitoes. So these are certain preventions which we have to take to avoid the vector-borne diseases. The main vector is the mosquito, and we have to keep away the mosquito by using vector nets or some creams like odomas, then using certain gambusia fish in ponds and which feed on these mosquito larvae. Then doors and windows should have wire mesh, and so by controlling these vectors we can be prevented from vector-borne diseases. And examples of vector-borne diseases are Aedes and Culex mosquitoes. And then houseflies also, they transmit diseases, they contaminate food and water. Then malaria, filariasis, dengue and chikungunya, all these diseases are vector-borne diseases. And mainly houseflies and mosquitoes, they are the vectors which transmit these diseases. So we have to keep away from these vectors. So these are certain preventions to prevent ourselves from airborne, waterborne and vector-borne diseases. So diseases can be prevented by vaccine and immunization also. So vaccines are used to eradicate smallpox, polio, diphtheria, pneumonia and tetanus. And through biotechnology we can make available newer and safer vaccines. And so discovery of antibiotics and various other drugs, they also enable us to effectively treat infected viruses, infected diseases. So if we want to prevent ourselves from diseases, there are certain vaccines for certain diseases like smallpox, polio, diphtheria, pneumonia and tetanus. And the researchers, they are working through biotechnology to make more safer vaccines. And with the discovery of antibiotics and antiviral drugs, many drugs have been invented to treat different diseases, to keep us away from these diseases. So this is all for today's presentation. So you have to go through whole of this video, and today we have studied different diseases like malaria, filariasis, ascariasis, common cold, amoebiasis, ringworm. And so these were certain diseases which we have studied today, and you have to go through whole of the presentation. And in case you feel any difficulty, we will discuss in our class, and we can discuss in our next presentation also. And the rest of the diseases we will discuss in our next presentation. Thank you.